I'm Lynn Marriott.
And I'm Pia Nilsson, and we are co-founders of VISION54.
Yeah, and we're going to spend some time with you here on introducing you to what VISION54 is all about.
Yes, we invite you into our world.
Yes.
And the main thing that we want to do with any player that comes to us, it can be a tour player or what we call the real golfer, the other, was it 98% of other golfers?
Least, yeah.
Is to support you to play better golf on the golf course and
enjoy it more.
Yes.
Yeah, and Pia, it's interesting because a lot of golf instruction is focused around getting a better swing or a better putting stroke or chipping stroke, but our intention is that you actually have skills that are on the golf course.
Exactly. So it's good to have good technique, but you need more stuff.
Yeah. And enjoying it more is really a big deal for us too, because we see golfers that come off the 18th green and they're miserable. And they've spent time, money, and energy doing this thing called golf. Even the tour players that we coach, and they're not enjoying it. In fact, they're not in a good place.
Yeah, exactly.
So enjoy it more.
So a couple of the main beliefs that we have and we found all the coaching on. One is, of course, the 54 in Vision, that we actually do believe that someone is going to shoot 54 or lower in the competition on the tours. Hasn't happened yet. 259s though.
Yeah, well, we've coached Annika Sorenstam and Russell Knox, who both had 59s. So.
But we do believe it's possible, and it's a chosen belief of ours. But the 54 is also about believing in possibilities, right?
Yeah, so for us it's a philosophy as well, and it's believing in those possibilities. So for the real golfers, as we called them just a few minutes ago, is that, for them it might be breaking 100 for the first time, or 90 or 80, so it's not really that they're going to ever shoot 54, but it's just looking at the possibilities in their game. And Pia, it's because so many have a mindset of faults and fixes.
Yeah.
So they're always looking at what's wrong with their swing, what's wrong with their game.
Yeah.
And they never look at what all the possibilities that are that are happening right now.
So it brings into the 54 for us is about a certain attitude to have, to be more with the positivity bias too in what we do.
Right, instead of the negativity bias that is kind of hardwired into us.
And definitely the 54 is a process.
Yeah, but it's a process, and not just understanding the process, but actually doing it. So it means focusing on things that are under your control and then putting action on them.
Yeah. Action is the word.
Yeah, action.
Because many with these skills, they think if I just understand it, it's I got it, but that's not true.
Right. And then that action piece as well is having a discipline to keep doing it.
Yes. Yeah. So these skills we're going to talk about, they need to be practiced. Everybody usually knows if you go to the gym and want to get stronger, you need to practice. Technical things, everybody knows. I have my drills, I need to practice. It's the same with these skills.
Yeah, absolutely. To have that discipline.
Yeah.
And just a couple more beliefs that we have at VISION54, so you understand kind of the foundation of where we're coming from and how we coach. And that is that we look at every golfer we coach as unique.
Yeah. We haven't seen two great players that ever do it the same way. Right. So there isn't one way of doing it. So actually, everybody who comes to us, they get a notebook. Yeah. And the notebook is empty. But we always say this is going to be the most important piece of tool you get from here. Yeah,
and so what we ask them to do is they always start out by putting their name in the notebook and the number 54 after it. So from the very beginning, that book is about possibilities and inventorying how they play their best golf, and also the ahas they have around all the different exercises we have them do.
Yeah. So this is so important, any main learnings, ahas, because everybody coming is going to have different things. Yeah. And then, because often you have those ahas, and if you don't write it down, the next day we kind of forget.
And they go, it was so good last week, but what did I do?
No. And actually, you always ask them to write something right away.
Yeah, well, the first entry we ask all the players who come to us or our golf schools is they write down first the minimum three things they know they do when they play well, which we'll talk about in a little while. which is what we call their My 54. But we want them to start focusing on all those things they do when they play well that are unique to them.
And we want you to do it too.
Yeah.
If you're a player or a coach, you want to do it.
Yeah.
And then is before we actually get going, I think we have to ask them 3 questions.
3 questions.
3 questions. There are no trick to them, and the answers can only be yes or no.
Yeah.
And we always like to start that way, just to get really clear about what golf is all about. And question number 1 is
golf played on a golf course?
And so far, we don't know about you, but so far, among thousands of golfers, we've always got the answer yes.
Yeah. Actually, when we've done some coaching with Brad Faxon, he giggled and he said, I think every tournament I've ever played's been on a golf course.
Yeah. So second question is, this game that I'm played on the course, is it played by humans?
Yes.
That we always have got yes on.
Yeah. And even though we may look at robotic models to how a swing could be, we got to remember this is a human experience.
Yeah.
And you're listening in, you're a human too. Yeah.
I think most golfers who play golf are humans. So, okay, so it's a game
On
on the
golf
course
course.
by humans. And is the game then played on the course by human, is it variable?
Yeah.
That's the answer we always get too.
Yeah.
Right?
But so many golfers are looking for consistency. Oh, if I could just be more consistent. If that swing could just show up every day and I could be consistent. But the thing is, there's nothing consistent about golf.
And everybody knows that. However it felt today, the one thing that's guaranteed is going to be different tomorrow. And the day after that is going to be different, because the outer external conditions are variable and you are variable. So it is variable. So it's about learning to manage that thing.
Yeah.
So how we go about things is because we actually have the 3 things. It's a game played on the golf course by human, and it's variable. And having the skills and tools available so you can manage that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and Pia, that variability is a big deal because it happens from hole to hole.
Yeah.
And people often say, oh, I always start well on the front 9 and then the back 9 I collapse. Or, I'm slow on the front 9 and then I get going on the back 9. So that variability is always there.
Yeah.
So we want the players we coach to look at how it is they're variable and then, of course, learn to manage it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, you're starting to get the foundation of things, because we feel it's important to explain more the belief structure and foundation, and that's where we step in and do our coaching.
Yeah.
And so to do that, so one thing that is very important to get clear for us is that we play this game on the course by humans. The way we look at it, there are 2 sets of golf fundamentals.
2 sets.
2 sets.
Yeah. So there's, of course, the technical fundamentals, the technical skills of the game. So, how to swing, how to stroke, how to chip, how to hit different shots, how to draw it, how to fade it, how to hit it high, how to hit it low. All the technical things of how you get a golf ball to move. Yeah.
But then there is the other set of fundamentals, or you can name them the non-technical fundamentals. Sometimes we call them the hidden fundamentals because they're not so as explicit. But there are what we like to name them the human skills. Because it is a human being who's going to make those technical swings. And the human skills is another set of fundamentals that we found is so important.
Yeah. And where do you think most golfers have spent the majority of their time trying to get better? Technical skills.
Yes.
And they look at the human skills as kind of an intervention when they've exhausted trying to get great at this.
Yes.
And this isn't working.
Yeah.
But we don't see it that way. We see it as a parallel process.
Yes. And we think any of the players of the future, no matter if you're elite player or new golfer, that you learn it, like you said, from the parallel thing. Right. And what we mean by the human skills is that it's the state you have, it's the state of the body you have playing, it's the state of the mind you have playing, it's the state of the emotions you have playing.
Yeah. So that state of your body, mind, and emotions, and the variability of them, and that you have skills to manage that.
Exactly. Yeah. And actually, when you play on the golf course, it can only be in one of 4 areas on the golf course where you need to have figured out for yourself how to do with this. So you can get in a good performance state so the technical skill level you have can actually come through.
So it could be these 4 places on the golf course could be before the shot, what we call the think box. So it's at making a decision. And then during the shot or the swing,
we call it the play box.
Yeah. And then after the shot, as soon as the ball's headed to some destination,
Yes.
we call that the memory box.
Yes.
And then the 4th place
is all that time you have between shots, which is the majority of the time, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It actually is the majority of time. Every golfer, whether it's a tour player or a real golfer, that's where they spend most of their time.
Let's say a round of golf takes 4 hours. It doesn't happen very often, but if you did, you still have in between shot time of about 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
So
what do you do with that time?
I know.
Yeah.
Many sabotage themselves.
Yeah, they start telling themselves stories.
Yes, exactly. So that is pretty clear. With where all of you, and you need to figure out at least one thing that you want to do in the think box, and one thing in the play box, and one thing in the memory box, and of course between the shots.
Yep.
But let's go one further explanation how these two actually go together.
Right.
At first, we've written the plus technical skills plus human skills, but we realize it's not true. It's multiplied. Yeah. And let's just see how that could work.
Yeah. So we're just going to use a little scale of 1 to 3 in terms of proficiency, or that you're accomplished, or competency.
Yeah.
And so let's say there's a golfer who has a technical skill level of 2. 2,
which 2 is pretty good. If 3 is the highest, 2 is. I might not be a PGA or LPGA tour player, but I'm pretty darn good.
Yeah, so that means you know how to hit different shots, and you have some proficiency of being able to get the ball around the golf course.
Yeah. But let's say this player has never really looked at the human skills, actually haven't really trained it, but still know, like, of course I need to make a decision, pick a club, and pick a target, and know just below baseline. So let's say this player only has a 0.5 in human skills level. So how well he or she is going to play, I don't think it even has that. It's actually, when we see this, what I want to change this is we see it quite often. It's actually 0.3.
So you go, great swing, can't manage themselves.
No, don't know how to focus, don't know how to react between shots, don't know how to have instinct and athleticism or any of that.
Hit the downward spiral and warm up.
So their performance is 0.6.
So they perform or score woefully below what they're capable of in terms of what their technical level is. And you see that a lot. You kind of go, wow, that guy or that woman's like a great ball striker, but they can't play.
Yeah, what's wrong?
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense, many say, but it does for us. So let's say this golfer is playing a match against someone who does not have very high technical skill level. Might only have cutting everything with big slice, and around the greens maybe only know one shot, just the same chip shot the whole way.
Chip. Yeah. They don't know how to hit a flop shot or how to hit it out of different grasses. But so let's say it's 0.5 in technical skill level. But this one is, like you said, the opposite here. Might not be masterful in human skills, but actually learn quite a bit how to make a decision they trust, and how to stay focused, and how to manage themselves. They just seem to have composure, and they don't get rattled, and they just seem to have this other set of skills that makes them a player.
Exactly. So the 2 here. So who's gonna win every single time?
And it drives this one crazy because they've got a better swing, they practice more, they know more about the swing and the technical parts of the game, but they don't win.
No.
And they're like, that's not fair. Like that man or woman, they just kind of bunted around. So
I know.
All right. So here's the deal: the super golfer of the future for us, and the training that we do with a lot of the tour players that we coach is around this. We don't want to ignore the technical skills. We want to keep getting better and better at them, as well as getting awesome at your human skills. And so again, as we said, they're like a parallel process that you're always practicing and training both your technical skills and your human skills.
And this is where we see all those untapped possibilities and capacities we all have as golfers. We haven't seen this golfer yet, but we're getting many now come to our trainings and who keep saying, I want to be that super golfer of the future. And said, let's do it. Let's see where it can take you.
Well, it's interesting. We just got a text last evening from a gentleman who, he actually runs a big podcast here in the U.S., and he just reviewed a little bit of what we talked about with human skills. And he went out and shot his best score ever, 64 by two.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Because again, there's so much potential here that people haven't even sniffed at.
Yeah. Okay. So remember that we're not saying technique is not important. We're just saying it's insufficient to only focus on improving that area. And because there is still that human being who plays the game of golf, and you have a think box, you have a play box, you have a memory box, you have time between shots playing this game of golf. So let's just add those skills. That's what we want.
Yeah.
So I'll just erase that, and then we're going to do a little bit with each one of these, right?
Yeah. So we'd like to, not dive real deep, but just a few things around these 4 areas on the golf course.
Yeah.
Before, during, after, and between. And we're going to start with actually during. We're going to start with the play box, because the play box is the most important time in golf. It is where golf happens. It's where you're over the ball and you're making a swing or a stroke.
Actually, I like to call it the king or queen of all the skills. Because all the other ones is just going to support this maybe being even better, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Even though we know that, like, in terms of sequence, the routine goes make a decision, make a swing, react, and then you have that time between shots. We're going to start with play box.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, number one importance, what is it?
Well, it's to be focused. Okay, so what we mean by be focused is that you're actually there and 100% present.
Yes.
For the whole swing or the whole stroke.
All the way to the finish of the swing too, right?
Right. And this is a big, big deal in that this attention or focus that you have is not a cognitive focus. It's not that you're talking to yourself. It's not that you're going through a checklist or trying to hit all the positions in your swing. It's actually an athletic sensory awareness.
Yes.
Yeah.
So golfers need to learn when you step into the shot and the play box, always need to figure out what sensory things is good for me. So some like to feel the grip pressure, some like to feel the rotation to the finish, some like to more see the ball flight to the target, or singing a song and getting rhythm or tempo. So there are like hundreds of different choices, but you need to learn to go from cognitive thinking to actually being an athlete, like Lynn said, and you do that through being in sensory mode that you do in any reactionary sport naturally.
Right, because in those reactionary sports, it's going so fast that you don't have time to think.
Exactly.
But actually, that's how we also want you to kind of set up the time in your play box.
Yes.
Because the thing that we know is that the less time you spend in the play box, the shorter in time that you're in there and you're executing, the easier it is to stay an athlete and not slip back into the thinking.
Exactly.
Right.
And we see many on the driving range and putting green, and they stay a long time over the ball, and it's no issue. But go on the golf course with any perceived pressure, and you cooked, and there's thinking and doubting your aiming or whatever comes into your mind. So you want to do yourself a favor and train yourself to spend as little time as possible. Because you're so ready stepping in and you get in your aim in line sensor mode, you go. But you keep the focus all the way to the finish. It's a big deal. Many lose their attention and focus. Top of the backswing or impact, but you want to learn to keep it all the way to the finish.
And what we have found is that the time that you spend in the play box is anywhere from like 4 to 9 seconds.
Yeah. We find it when it's more than that, when you're under perceived pressure, and perceived pressure could be to have a putt to win a major championship, or it could be there are people watching me on the first tee and the experience is the same. It's just the perceived pressure. So do yourself a favor, practice this, and the other skills we're going to go into, and they're going to help this one become better and better.
Yeah. And so of course this play box relates to your golf swing as well as to a putt, a chip, a bunker shot, all those things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
For sure.
Okay.
It's non-negotiable that you want to be done thinking and stepping in and being more athletic and using your senses.
Yeah. And just one thing I want to say, at our golf schools or when we do training with any player, we have them try out, or kind of, you call it the smorgasbord of trying lots of different sensory awarenesses in the play box.
Yeah.
And as they try all these different ones out, like some are visual and some are more feel oriented, or some are more about rhythm and tempo, but we allow the player to figure out what works for them and connects with them.
Exactly.
Yeah, because remember, back to what we talked about, every player is unique, and one player's play box is not a fit for another player.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
So then, we want to start with the play boxes, because we found it's really hard to know what you're preparing for if you don't know what you want to do in the play box. So, I used to learn first pre-shot routine and stepping in, and I was wondering, I thought I was the only player on the planet that it didn't feel right.
Right.
So there are a couple of main things about the think box.
Yeah, so here it is. Make up your mind. Yeah. Make a decision. Okay, so you've got to be able to step in knowing, I'm going for this. This is what I'm committing to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is non-negotiable.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And another one is that you need to trust that decision.
Yes.
Because it's so many just go, okay, it's 50 yards, wind right to left, uphill, and they get all the metrics right, but they haven't checked if they trust it.
Yeah. So that trusting is, of course you might want to get some information about the shot to decide on your strategy, but it's also about checking in.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this trusting decisions, you want to be, smart and logical, and then trusting it. You trust it more by the way your voice is, how you talk to yourself. It's not like, oh, I hope I maybe can hit this shot. It's like you have a really trusting, clear, confident voice and body language, and that you actually listen in with your heart and your gut. Do I feel like I can hit this shot?
Yeah. So that this thing about trusting, or listening in, checking in, it's about really trusting that intuition you have, because you could have the same shot as you had the day before. Yeah. So it's the same yardage, same conditions, same pin placement. Let's say it's a shot into the green. All the metrics are the same, but today it's like two clubs different. Yeah. And why? Because you're different. Yeah. You feel different, and you've got to be able to listen in and take that into account so you can commit to it.
Exactly. It could be what you ate and how you slept, or weather. It could be all kinds of different reasons.
Right. Okay.
So we actually always have a decision line here for players learning this skill, because they need to be so clear about the decision that when they put their foot over that line, there's no change in their minds. Yeah. Go for it. And if I step in here and are doubtful, better step back again.
So I'll say that for a lot of the junior players that come for training, they're really good at all the metrics. They've been trained to, look at the putt in certain ways, maybe using aim point. They know their yardages, they know how far they supposedly hit each club, all that thing. But they haven't trained the intuition of the think box. So what we do is we take them out on the golf course, and they cannot refer to any yardage. They can't look and walk off any putts or do any of that stuff. Yeah. And they start to actually allow that intuition to come alive.
Because you see so many overdoing too much in think box. It needs to be simplified. And Lynn, you often talk about, it's not about overpacking, it's about having carry-on luggage here.
Right.
Yeah, keep it simple.
Keep it simple.
Yes.
Okay.
So now to understand a little bit, think box. And then the memory box. So memory box is those, let's say, 10 to 20 seconds, or for some much longer time after the shot. And it's how you react to a golf shot is going to decide what memories are being stored in the brain, and therefore it's going to influence how confident you can feel, right?
And for many of you, you might understand it this way, that you have a favorite hole, right? And you go, oh, I just love that hole out there. Or you have a not so favorite hole. Yeah. Or you have a favorite club or not so favorite club.
Yeah.
you know, and you would only have that because you have a memory. You know, where you go, oh, I just don't like this course. Okay, that's because you have a memory.
Yeah.
But how do memories get created?
Yeah, exactly. We have no choice over this. This goes as it's so many thousands of years old in the human brain and it's still functioning. So anytime something happens in golf, it's a golf shot, and I have an emotional reaction to it. I feel some emotion. It might be introvert or extrovert, but I feel something. That emotion makes what just happened get stored as a memory in the brain. So anytime you have an emotion internally or you show it outside of yourself, it's like Velcro. It's like sticky. It gets stored in the brain. And when I stay more objective, it would be like, okay, ball is in the right bunker and I swung faster than I wanted. That's objective. I'm objective, I'm not emotional. Then it doesn't get stored as strong.
Yeah, so it's like Teflon.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You got it.
It just bounces off. There's no memory created.
So knowing that,
yeah.
if I want to play my best golf, what are the only two reasonable reactions?
Well, would be that you're objective to shots that you don't like. Objective, sometimes we say neutral, but objective factual. Like you can say, you know, I swung too fast and the ball went out of bounds.
Yeah.
But you say it as a fact, not as, oh, what an idiot I am, you know?
In Sweden, they'll say, nay! Yeah. But this is so important.
And then the other reaction would be that you actually are positive.
I know, exactly.
Yeah.
And anytime you hit shots there from the spectrum great, good to good enough, you actually take it in with some degree of being pleased with what happened. Because you can't just store the greatest shots because we don't hit that many of those.
No.
Huh?
No.
So even the good and good enough have some degree of being pleased about what you did. Then you close the door and move on. Close the door and move on. But I want to say that because some think, oh, you guys are saying to be neutral to all shot. No, we're not. We're just saying be objective to shots you don't like and some degree of happy to those that you like. To maximize how confident you can get.
And we're also not saying to be happy about shots that went out of bounds or off the property or that you had 4 putts.
No.
Okay, we're not telling you to be happy. We're just telling you you need to have the discipline and the skill set to be objective and look at it as a fact, but not emotionalize it so it becomes a memory that you're going to refer to in the future. Yeah. Because for many, if they haven't managed the memory box, like they've never thought of it as a skill of golf. It's a skill. It's like a non-technical skill, but it's a skill of golf. Yeah. What happens is that memory shows up here.
Yes.
Now you've got like a shot and you go, oh, I don't feel good. Wow, Yeah. And it's because you've stored something and it's Velcroed and it's showing up as like, you're like now very defensive. You can't trust anything. And so as we clean that up, this starts to get cleaned up. But many just keep playing their past. Okay?
Yeah.
We don't want that.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. Getting a little grasp about what's in these 3 boxes now. They belong, it's the fundamentals of golf because actually every shot you hit for the rest of your life, you're going to need these. And either you become good at it or it's going to make you underperform. So we always think you might as well learn some things that are helpful for you, right?
Yeah. And what we call this sometimes is the performance routine. Like Pia said, every shot you hit in golf is going to have a decision, a commitment to that decision, an awareness, all the way to the end of the stroke or the swing, and then choosing a reaction that's appropriate for the future.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when you play golf, you have a think box, you have a play box, you have a memory box, and then you have time between shots. You know, then you hit another shot, think box, play box, memory box, more time between shots. So what's about the between shot stuff?
So the biggest deal with that time between shots is that we want you to be able to recharge your mind, your body, and your emotions.
Yes, exactly.
And then actually be ready within your body and in your mind and with your emotional state for the next shot.
Yeah, exactly. So players, they're often with the body, they know they need to be mindful what they eat and drink, but some need to stretch, some might to breathe more between shots. So it could be many things with the body. but also with the mind and emotion. And we have two special skills there that we want golfers to be aware of and learn, so they can figure out how to use it on the course.
And we won't go into those today with you all, but they're really important skills that we found every golfer needs to learn and then have ways to train. And that is to develop more what we call emotional resilience or bounce back ability. And there's a lot of neuroscience that kind of backs this up on how you do that, so that you abort the downward spiral, because many between shots keep telling themselves a story and just keep compounding the downward spiral that, my God, like they're cooked. So it's how to be able to abort that downward spiral and have emotional resilience, bounce back ability.
Absolutely.
And the second one is managing your self-talk, because all that time between shots, a lot of thoughts come in. And then how do you manage those thoughts?
And actually, as humans, they say that we have like 70,000 thoughts a day. Who knows? But everybody says we have lots and lots of them. So if you're in the golf course for 4 or 5 hours, it's many thousands of thoughts. So we, as a golfer, because we're not just out there for a few seconds, we're out there for hours, and we are in our own head. So it's learning, how do I manage my own self-talk so it's can be my best friend, and I know actually even how to quiet the mind when I would like to. So those becomes important in our game.
I mean, we have a couple tour player stories I'll just say quickly. Is that Annika won a US Open managing her self-talk by saying what between shots?
She just said fairway green, fairway green. She just kept saying that between shots so she wouldn't go to the future or worry about things that might happen. So.
And then we had another player that between shots, like she had her yardage book out, and she was always looking in her yardage book. In fact, a big newspaper put a picture of her in the newspaper and said, oh, she's doing a lot of course strategy between shots. She was doing Sudoku puzzles between shots. And it was just a way for her to disengage and not get into a lot of like, oh, what could happen in the future kind of self-talk.
Exactly.
So it's a big skill, both emotional resilience and managing self-talk. And as you learn those things and you really recharge your mind, your body, and your emotions, you're ready.
So do you see how all these are actually skills for playing the game of golf? They're not things you want to go to when your handicap is lower. It's not things you want to go to if nothing else works. They're foundational to the game because you get use of them every time you play golf on the golf course. And one thing that we spend a lot of time with is actually 3 physical skills that might come into play in the play box, or it might be more that you use them in warm up or practice. But we found them to be so useful.
I'm just gonna take your right here. And here the first one is what?
Balance. And then it's tempo, and then it's tension awareness. So many call it just by the shortening BTT.
Right. So these 3 physical skills, they're the foundation for anybody's golf swing. And they're the foundation for your chipping stroke, your putting stroke. They're only going to enhance and make your golf swing or your putting stroke or any of your technical skills better. But they need to be trained because they are extremely variable.
They are.
They're always going off.
So what, like balance, what is the main thing with that?
The main thing with balance is that we want you to be able to have more awake proprioception, meaning you have a lot of awareness of where your body is in space. And you're able to actually feel the ground and maintain your balance throughout the swing.
Good. And tempo is so important because tempo changes too depending on weather, and if you're nervous or not nervous or sluggish or whatever, it changes all the time. So it influences how you sync your swing.
A technical description of that would be that it actually helps you have a more efficient kinematic sequence. So as you learn to be able to swing clubs at different tempos, and even your putting stroke at different tempos, you're just able to actually have more shots.
Exactly. And also
and
like
sync up your swing.
And check in, since our body is different the whole time, just checking like what tempo makes that sequence happen today.
And I just often like to share this story is that when Annika sometimes would practice with Tiger, this is a long time ago when she was still playing, they would always go on the golf course when they were doing their practice or training, and then Tiger would say to her, okay, Annika, I want you to hit a shot from here. And she'd hit it. And then he'd say, okay, what do you think I'm going to hit? And she'd say, well, I hit an 8-iron. You're going to hit a wedge. And he'd say, no, watch. I'm going to hit an 8-iron as well, like at 40% tempo. So again, just learning to do that is really, really big. Yeah. Intention awareness.
Yes, so tension awareness is very common on the golf course because you get tight because it's a tight fairway, or you feel uncomfortable with a lie and something happens with the grip pressure. So we see the changing of tension can mess things up on the golf course quite a bit for golfers.
Yeah.
So it's learning to calibrate, actually being aware of that, because when the tension creeps into putting stroke or chipping or swing, it really, really disrupts your technique.
Yeah. So it's a subtle one, but it's a big one in terms of actually starting to own your technique.
Yep, exactly.
With tension awareness.
Yeah. Cool.
Okay.
We're covering a lot
Yeah,
here.
we're covering a lot, and we're like going for it.
Yeah.
And we just like to share one more big concept that we feel has to do with what we talked about in the beginning, and that is how to manage that variability.
Yeah.
And as we know, consistency is not achievable, but being a master of variability, so you master how to manage yourself as things change, that's a big deal.
Because after you get a little grasp of these skills and you start to explore it yourself, and always best to explore on the golf course too.
Yeah.
And then what you want to create your own game plan of this, you want to start sifting out what are the things I seem to do when I play really well, and what happens when I mess up. Yeah. And the words we have for it, just to have a vocabulary to talk from, is the things I do when I play well. We call it my 54 items.
And remember how we said we have everybody at a golf school always start with writing down at least 3 things, but we want them to get to like hundreds of things they know they do when they play well, and things that are specific to them about how they do and experience the play box and the think box, how it is they like to make decisions, and how it is they tend to be reacting, because whether you're an extrovert or an introvert with your emotions doesn't matter with the brain science. So just really inventorying all the things you do when you play well.
Because every golfer we know, and we said it earlier, we're all unique. Yeah. So you need to grasp a hold of and have tried enough things to know, is it my 54 that your tempo is more 75%? Is the my 54 more when you really see your trajectory clearly to the finish? Or is the my 54 for you when you just feel extra confident and clear and decisive in the think box? Those are the things you want to do.
Yeah.
And then we all mess up too. You need to be brutally honest with, okay, when I mess up is when my tightness happens in my jaw and shoulders. So when I mess up, it's because I get irritated and I focus on the past, or whatever it might be.
Right, or I get so future oriented, I worry about that back 9 and I'm only on the 2nd hole.
Yeah. So you want to train to more often be in your my 54 state. Then not 54 is always going to come. Often it comes several times during the round. But being aware and then know what to do to shift back. That's what we call being a master of variability.
And then again, what we help players do is inventory. They're not 54s, again, with each, like the think box, the play box, the memory box, between shots, balance, tempo, tension awareness. So again, we just want this to be an awareness so you catch yourself sooner. Yeah. We often say like catching yourself in mid-scroll.
Exactly.
Because once you have awareness of it, you can do something.
Yeah. And just, one of the best in the game that I ever coached with that was Annika Sorenstam. Like one of her main my 54, just to give you an example, was that when she played well, she was so good at being so decisive and committed to whatever decision was all the way to the finish. She didn't put in 0.1% of doubt. She made a decision and committed to it for every shot for a whole round of golf when she played really well. Yeah. She was extraordinary at that.
Extraordinary.
And then not 54 she would have to watch out for, would be that she could go to the future too quickly, and she would need to have tools to bring herself back.
Yeah. And another player that we've coached who's a major champion is Arya Jutanagarn. Yeah. Her nickname is May. But May, her my 54 is that she's aggressive, she's very quick or efficient in her play box. She just goes for it with a very, very aggressive putting stroke or drive or whatever. her not 54 is she steps into the think box and the memories come flooding back and she starts thinking that the past is going to show up again. And she gets really worried about, oh my God, I know this happened like last year and it might happen to me again.
Well, when it's the bad memories that comes flooding.
Yeah,
oh,
exactly.
I missed a cut here last year, so it's going to happen now again. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
So anyway, we all have these my 54s and not 54s.
Yeah.
And I'll just say with Kevin Streelman, his my 54s, he can have exquisite sense of tempo and a really sense of soft, light grip pressure. And he plays the guitar and he has really good feel in his hands. Yeah.
And he's not 54? The main thing is he gets too quick.
Yeah, too quick. And then he can start to kind of compartmentalize the swing and it gets, down into a bunch of pieces that he's trying to hit and that kind of thing, and there's nothing whole about it. Yeah. Loses the tempo.
Exactly.
Yep.
So that was overview there of some of the main things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll just say, if for the golfers out there watching this, if you just start with your my 54 and not 54, and you just start taking an inventory here, you're going to make huge progress.
And you can have notes about that with you in your pocket or notebook or yardage book, like to remind yourself we're out on the golf course. Because sometimes we get so outcome obsessed, we forget the things under our control to focus on. So that can really help you.
And we really hope that for your future that you're not myopic, or you're not just only focusing on your swing, because it is one place to look, your technical skills. But please,
want a little wider.
Yeah, we want you to be a player.
Yeah.
And be a player on the golf course and have a way that you've trained that you can manage yourself and perform to the level that you're capable of.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And we know, for those of you that want to learn more about this, there are many ways of doing it. But we have written several books, and our latest book was Be a Player. And in this one, after every chapter, there are exercises that you go out and do on the golf course. Because many of these things you can practice on the range or putting green, of course, but it's so important to take it to the golf course and check it out how it works out there. And so this is the last of our 4 books, and we have different card games
we have
and
different
things too.
What we call playing card games, where you can do this on the golf course, or you could do it on the range, where you pick a card for play box, you pick a card for think box, pick a card for memory box, and pick a card for between shots.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of variability here, so you're always having the variability in your practice.
Yes. We have a VISION54 iPhone app too, with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of exercises. And if any of you want on the even more digital side, we have a whole online golf school called My Game. And what we've done recently to the last year, so we started using an app called Coach Now, and we're creating like an 8-week training. So every week you get assignments. So 1 week might be play box, another week might be think box, but you get audios and videos, and you get like practice plans, so you can interact with the coaches and other students, so you can actually go through that learning. Because our goal is, of course, anyone is welcome to come to us in person, and Arizona is our home base, but we realize it's really hard for many to do that, so we want to expand the options with all of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so many of you teachers and coaches, we've had coach training for many years, but it's so hard to be able to come and have enough time to learn this in a good way. So we also create what we call a Super Coach 54 program, and it's also remotely, and it goes on where every week you get your assignment, and then you learn about the in-depth human skills, but you learn other things too.
Yeah, I mean, all the different things about, not just what to coach, but how to coach.
Yeah.
And why are you doing this coaching? Those kind of things. More of the deeper skills of being a great coach.
Yeah. That's so cool.
Yeah.
So what we want you to do after you finish listening to this is, only from this presentation, write down like 3 things that you take away that you want to use for your golf, or those of you that are coaches that you want to use for your coaching. Yeah. And check it out. See what happens to your game and your students' game.
And remember to believe in your possibilities, going back to our beginning. is that 54, of course, is a number, but it's really believing and then taking action on your possibilities. So please do that.